All right, welcome to the MasterClass. Now we're going to talk about the sweeper. So the sweeper is a pitch that took over baseball a few years ago, and it has a lot of interesting characteristics. Now, some people will leave comments criticizing the sweeper because they say, "Oh, well, that's just a slider," and they're naming different pitches, but it's actually a completely different pitch in that it's thrown differently. And that's not to say that maybe people threw sweepers in the past, but it is distinct from a slider and from a curveball. So for example, the average slider moves only 7 inches horizontally, while the average sweeper moves 15 inches horizontally. Part of that is because a sweeper will have much more horizontal spin as opposed to bullet spin, as you can see in the example shown above. And another part of it is you throw a sweeper typically with a two-seam grip, and so you allow the seam shifted wake effect to take a much more pronounced effect on it than you would with like a regular slider. So the two seam grip means that it's spinning sideways with an asymmetrical seams that are interacting with the air, and that asymmetry is what will cause more movement. It's the same effect that is used on a like a heavy sinker, and it makes a tremendous difference. So that's why it has an almost magical kind of look to it. So here's a bunch of different sweepers in MLB games, and you can see they all have that sharp sweeping movement. Some of them will have more drop. A lot of that is because of gravity, and some of it is that they have some vertically induced movement, but a lot of it is just the gravity. So when they're throwing harder, it's mostly just horizontal movement. You actually want to throw it with almost purely horizontal movement, and then the drop will just be the gravity. But you can see it has a really tremendous effect. It's very difficult to hit because of the amount of sweep. To give you an example or some context, the plate in MLB, and actually you're all the way up, starting from Little League, your entire career in baseball, is 17 inches wide. So if an average sweeper moves 15 inches in the MLB, then that means you have almost half of all sweepers are going to be moving more than the width of the entire plate, which is absolutely crazy to think about. And then also think about this. A two-seamer can easily move in the opposite direction, 15, 20, sometimes 25 inches or more. So when you add those numbers together, that's the difference between the two-seamer and the sweeper, which is a lot of times what it's going to look like to the batter. Because remember, the batter is seeing everything based on, kind of the context of what he's been seeing. And so when the batter's up there and he saw a two-seamer that moved in, and then he sees another pitch that moves, 15 inches past the zero line in the opposite direction, to him, it looks like it moved 30 inches. So that's where you can get batters that are ducking out of the way, that are jelly leg, that are completely frozen on a well-executed sweeper. So it's a completely nasty pitch, two-seam grip, seam shifted wake, thrown a little bit different, a little bit more the bottom of the ball. You're not trying to get on top of it. And that is the masterclass on the sweeper.